August, it's Mental Health Awareness Week and month. It's a time to bring attention to those living with mental or behavioral health issues and to help reduce the stigma many people experience every day. This year's theme is My Story, which reminds us of the importance of being open with one another about our struggles. It's also crucial to remember that we're never alone. This year, many are taking the opportunity to advocate for free universal mental health care for everyone in Canada. Manisa Danabolan joins us now with more on this mental health conversation. Hey, Manisa.
Kelly, a recent survey conducted for the Canadian Mental Health Association found that 9 in 10 agree that people living in Canada should have access to universal mental health care.
I feel like I can't breathe.
It impacts thousands around the globe. 1 in 5 people will experience mental health challenges in their lifetime.
So mental health is really not that much different from the physical health, except in physical health, we're able to see that there is a problem. With mental health, a lot of times it's about our emotions, it's about our psychology, it's the way we think about things and how are we able to actually interact with the world.
For a while now, I feel like I've been stuck in a dark place.
More people experienced mental health issues during the COVID-19 pandemic, but it also sparked more conversations and awareness around what people were dealing with. And yet the stigma around mental health still exists, and experts say it needs to end.
A number of things that we need to know as individuals in our society, because we always have the tendency of knowingly or unknowingly discriminating against individuals who've been diagnosed with mental illness. So it could be treating them negatively, not including them, and having that negative perception of who they are.
Find someone you trust and tell them.
To eliminate the stigma and help each other, it's important to educate ourselves, talk to one another, and share stories.
Psychiatric symptoms and signs tend to be emotional or behavioral, and people have a harder time sort of recognizing those as an illness. It seems like the person's just acting that way, like they're choosing to act that way. People don't choose to have a substance use disorder. People don't choose to have depression. People don't sign up to have a psychotic episode.
Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it isn't real.
Many people are also advocating for free universal mental health care in Canada, which would mean those services would be funded through public health insurance and be free to individuals.
The issue is that, many Canadians do not have access to primary care. Within the primary care system, not all the primary care physicians actually are able to provide mental health care. When we think about being referred to a specialist, with a psychiatrist or mental health specialist or a psychologist, the waiting list is actually quite long.
According to the Canadian Mental Health Association, a survey found that out of the 35% of people who experienced a mental health concern in the past year, more than 1/3 did not reach out for help, primarily because it's too expensive or because they don't know where to find it. We should also remember that mental health challenges can impact anyone regardless of their age, including children and youth. So having these conversations will help them understand what's going on and know that it's okay to ask for help.
Joining us now to talk about mental health awareness is therapist Angie Agrawal Holstein. Angie, what are the warning signs that someone might be struggling with mental illness?
So there's a number of overt warning signs, and there's a number of what we would call maybe covert or underground warning signs. So if we're looking at kind of more obvious warning signs, we're seeing somebody whose maybe personal hygiene is starting to change. It's not, their upkeep isn't as well as what we're used to in them. We're seeing more isolation. So, a friend that kind of disappears for a while or tends to not respond to texts or invitations for social engagement. Another sign might be weight gain or weight loss. We may see somebody looking more tired. So signs that, sleep is being affected for that person. We may also see more overt signs of anxiety and anger. Often a really misconception around depression is that anger and irritability is actually one of the primary symptoms of depression and anxiety.
How can we start that conversation with a friend or a loved one if we are concerned for their well-being?
That's hard, isn't it? It's really hard for people, and people talk about that the most. Like, I'm worried about my loved one. I'm not really sure. Teachers talk about that as well. I'm not really sure if the student is okay. How do I start that conversation? And I think, the first way to engage with people is around connection, because the piece around mental illness is that people are feeling disconnected. And the more disconnected they feel, the worse the symptoms get. So if we can always remember that and start with connection, I care about you. I'm worried about you. I have noticed. Is it okay for us to talk about this? I'm here to help. I've experienced this too, and I'm wondering if I'm seeing those same things in you. Is it okay to talk about this? So, when we go at somebody with, you need to see a therapist, you need to get help, you need to see your doctor, people go, and their defenses go up.
How can we check in with ourselves to make sure we're doing okay?
Excellent question. I think that's the hardest piece for us. We live in a growth mindset society, and our eyes point out. We have to look after our brain matter. And here's how we do that. So taking an inventory of sleep. How's my sleep going these days? Checking internally for stress. What's my stress levels like? What are they like at the beginning of the day? What are they like at the end of the day? And I'm going to say those are really two important pieces to start with for people, because sleep is a crisis. It is an actual crisis. If sleep disturbance continues, and we're seeing a lot of this since COVID, a lot of ongoing sleep issues for people. If sleep is disturbed and we're not having 4 healthy REM cycles a night, mood goes down, anxiety goes up. And if we make just little tweaks in our sleep, mood will go up, anxiety will go down, even if it's based on an hour. Stress has become a badge of honor. So we all sort of talk about, hey, how are you? I'm so stressed out. I only slept 3 hours last night. We need to start taking an inventory of our language, what we say, because we live what we say around stress. And we have to complete the stress cycle every day. So that is the second piece. The other piece I would look at is my exercise, movement. What's going on in this body? Am I pumping in good endorphins? So that could be a HIIT workout to yoga to a half an hour walk outside. It doesn't have to be a huge regime.
Thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure, Kelly.